Well, hello everyone. Thanks for joining us on episode 5 of Orphan Correct. I'm your host, Rooney, and I'm really happy that we are finally back after our hiatus from last week. I'm so excited for this week's show. There's so much to talk about. Last night's episode was so insane. I'm almost still like jittery. So we're going to jump right in. Let me introduce you to our guest. This is Danine, and she is joining us from the West Coast today. Danine, how are you?
Good. Hi. Thanks for
Thanks,
having me.
thanks for being here. Um, well, before we jump right in, let me just find out some information from you. So, how did you find out about Orphan Black? How did you start watching?
Yeah, so last summer, I was still obsessed with Doctor Who, so that was
Okay.
around early summer. So I was trying to find new shows because how when you just finish like a season, you're just like, oh, it feels so empty. Like I need something to fill that up. So
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
so like I've seen promotions of Orphan Black and commercials on BBC, and yeah, it looked interesting, but I wasn't really like, okay, I'll put it on the list, but and then it wasn't until one day I was on Tumblr, I saw this gift set of Casino. So he was showing like, oh, there's this West Coast chick, like, ooh, she has cool glasses, she has braids, like, she's a
Yeah.
scientist, like, she smokes pot, and I was like, what? It's like, all right, all right, like, he sold me, like, okay, I have to check this show out. And then so I did, and then first 10 minutes of the show, I was like, okay, like, I'm into it, like, I'm invested, okay. And then I pretty much binge watched that whole episode within like 2 days. Like, wow,
Wow.
yeah, like I never usually do that, but
Uh-huh.
like wow, with this show, I don't know, it's hard not to take a break from it. It's just like
Yeah.
yeah, it's like I want to see the next episode. Like feed me more. Like
Yeah, like it sucks you in from like the first few
yeah,
minutes.
exactly. It's just like what the heck. Like I've seen a lot of shows, I've seen a lot of films, but
Yeah.
like wow, this one is just like just kind of like I fell in love with it, and yeah,
Yeah.
that was the
Yeah.
life. Like, never look
Cool.
back.
Cool. All right, well, let's jump right in. Um, I know kind of at the beginning of the week, I was thinking, well, since we didn't have a show last week, I kind of want to talk about episode 4 and episode 5, but I feel like at this point, there's so much going on in episode 5, I kind of want to just focus on that.
Yeah,
So maybe I'll just do like a really like few second recap of episode 4 that'll lead us right into episode 5. So episode 4, I want to know what happens at this point. It ends with that like incredibly intense scene in the shower. Daniel is going to mutilate Sarah in some kind of way. We have no idea what's going to happen. Obviously, he
yeah,
can't kill her. She said, you can't kill us, can you? And he was like, no, we can't. But, he takes out this razor and he starts like cutting on her ear. And so at that moment, like before anything else happens, I'm just like, oh my gosh, like what is going to happen,
yeah,
you know?
yeah. I was
And
genuinely like afraid in that scene. I was like,
I was
what
too.
are you gonna
I was
do?
too. Like, I know Sarah's the protagonist, so basically she can't die, pretty much. But that the show is so good, it's still not letting you take anything for granted. Like, even
Yeah,
though she is the protagonist, I felt for just a few seconds, I was like, oh my gosh, what if they, what if they try to kill
yeah.
her, you know?
It's like you never know like what they're gonna do. It's like it's kind of like Game of Thrones, how it's like no one's really safe in this like, universe. It's like even the most loved and like the main character could like just perish anytime. It's just
Yeah. So
yeah.
it was crazy. Um, and I have to say, like when Helena entered, the bloody bridal dress, which was so incredibly horrific, it completely caught me off guard. Like I was so shocked, but at the same time, part of me felt like I kind of knew it was coming
Mhm.
because, obviously she's alive and we see her escape from the Prolethean camp, and pretty much her whole point of living now is Sarah. So I knew at some point she was going to seek her out. I guess I just didn't expect it to be at Rachel's apartment. So to see her like come in and, whatever she does to Daniel, like kills him, I guess slit his throat or whatever, and then she's standing there with the knife, I was like, ah! you know.
I know. But I also find it funny. It's like imagine her like going to that building, all bloodied up, like like imagine yourself walking in the street and it's like, it's
Yes.
good. But it's just like it's amazing how like how could she pull it off without being like noticed or like
Exactly. My biggest question is how in the world did they let her in? And how did she get up to Rachel's apartment? Like, she has this, she looks crazy. Like, even without the blood, to a normal person that doesn't know that she's actually, kind of smart and a sniper and all this kind of stuff, but like we know her, if you just saw her, like, walking up to your, like, really cool,
yeah.
posh apartment building,
Yeah,
I feel
I'll
like
be
I would
worried.
not let her in. I would be so worried. So I'm so curious as to how she got in there. So
Yeah,
I'd love to know that story.
yeah.
But so anyway, so she comes in, and there she is, and Sarah. Okay, before we even get to Sarah's reaction to seeing Helena there and she her saving her life, how weird is it that at that moment Sarah is in the same room with not one but two people that she had presumed dead? That I can only imagine like how crazy
Like
that was.
you could see how freaked out she was. Like I could relate to it. I'll probably just pass out like right there and right then.
Yeah, I've been like, no,
Yeah, yeah.
that is it for
Like
me.
yeah, it's like I'm probably dead. Like and I'm like looking all the dead. Like you know what I mean? It's like
Yep, yep, yep. So I can only imagine like what kind of like alternate kind of universe thing was kind of going on in her head. Um, and anyway, so I know that everything, everyone's talked for a long time about that shower scene, but I think it's it was so powerful and so well done. I can only like stand back in awe at Tatiana's acting in that scene. Like she's tied, or what is it, the little things around her wrist, so she's got her hands up here and she can't really move, she can't go anywhere, so pretty much all of her acting and all of her emotion is in her face for that scene. But you completely see like every feeling, every emotion. You see the just shock of I thought, I killed you, and then the horror of you're covered in blood and you have a knife. Like, are you here for some kind of bloody revenge? And just the fear, like it was all there, like all at once and one after another. It was incredible, just incredible.
And,
Oh, go ahead.
oh yeah, like and the fact that she's also tied up, with like her hands are above her head, and she's like physically exposed right there. Like she can't even defend herself in case like someone comes up to her, and it's just like her vulnerability is just like right there with her face, with her body.
Yeah.
And, like you just can't help but feel her fear like, as a viewer as well. And
Yeah. The fear was so palpable almost through that whole episode, but it really intensified in there. But then at the same time, you kind of have this overhanging fear coming from Sarah, but I still kind of picked that up from Helena as well, even though she was pretty much in the position of, I guess, power in the situation. Like she had killed Daniel, and she was, coming to I guess kind of rescue Sarah, but at the same time, you really felt this incredible, intense fear coming from her, having just escaped the Proletheans, and she probably still doesn't really know exactly what happened to her.
Yeah,
So
she's just pretty much still kind of traumatized with the whole situation.
Yeah,
And just
yeah,
everything happened so fast. Like she didn't even really take a break to like think it over and just take that all in. So she's just kind of carrying that with her.
yeah,
Getting back to Sarah and
exactly.
all that heat and
Yeah. So you have this ball of unprocessed raw fear and adrenaline coming from Helena, and then you have the same thing like mirrored in Sarah. All this shock, all this horror from what in the world is going on, and so that whole scene of them coming together once again. That mirror image kind of motif that's going through this whole show. They're kind of like when they're looking at each other, they're mirroring each other's fear, and that emotion is just like overwhelming in that scene. And I think that's one reason that the kind of hug, kind of embrace thing at the end was so powerful, is because you felt both of them kind of giving up on their fears of each other from before, because they now kind of know that they're almost one and the same. They're two sides of the same coin, and so they're now really coming together in this kind of understanding. Sarah could still have kind of pushed Helena away, if she had wanted to, and Helena could very well have stabbed Sarah with a knife. But we see at that moment, we see them come together, and we kind of see those walls start to drop like brick by brick by brick. And if Tatiana Maslany does not get an Emmy nomination for that scene, I don't know what I will do. I will set something on fire.
Yeah. Also, getting back to your twin image, what you just explained. Also, like how both of them just came from like a near-death experience. How like Sarah just she got the car crash and thinking that Daniel died, and then again getting back to him, and she was expecting that, okay, like I'm done, like Daniel's gonna probably kill me at this time.
Mm-hmm.
And and the same with Helena, how when Gracie tried to kill her. So it was like, I guess it both happened on the same day. And I think that's just really interesting, and how they kind of both got away from all that situation only to get back together and just, like you said, like all the raw emotions and the vulnerability exposed to one another. But it ended with them just, kind of like giving in to this twin connection, and like we can't deny that, like you can't just push each other away because
definitely you're definitely right about that. And I think just going a bit further with that whole connection thing that they've, I guess, kind of mostly felt since season one, mostly I guess Helena, but Sarah as well. You kind of see Sarah make this decision in her head, and you kind of see it in her eyes. You're like, okay, the connection is definitely real. And I think she decides in the shower in that moment that she can't kill Helena anymore. Like whatever I guess fear that she had of her from before, because obviously Helena tried to kill her and was killing all these other clones, and so she is it's very normal for her to want to kill her. But you see her in that shower, you see her kind of, something switches in her mind, and she's like, okay, this is my family, this is my sister. And you see that in the next episode where obviously they're together, but you see it start, like the seed of that relationship change really starts in that scene.
Yeah, like in that scene how like she just kind of just broke down and just she leaned on like Helena and just like she just gave in and just like, okay, like my sister just saved me, like and like you said, like on the next episode you kind of saw them kind of almost bonding together and kind of exploring that kind of pushed away relationship, I guess.
Yeah.
That switch. And I think I'm pretty sure a lot of Code Club fans are just probably just so much feeling
So let's now go straight into episode 5. There's still plenty, I guess, we could say about episode 4, but there's so much to be explored in last night's episode. So so we come in pretty much straight after Helena has, I guess, rescued Sarah from the bathroom, and so I loved that image of Helena on Felix's couch. And I saw this post on Tumblr, I think last night or this morning, and it's so true. It's like Orphan Black is basically just Felix dealing with with another crazy sister after another, like each more frustrating than the last. And it's so true. Like almost every clone has been at his house at some point, and he has to be just like, okay, and just be the bigger person and keep letting them in.
You gotta babysit another one.
Yeah. But I love that dynamic, and I love that they're going to explore that dynamic even more between Sarah, Helena, and now Felix. And I love how Helena's just so like, she's so like kind of open to anything that Sarah has to say, because at first, obviously she's kind of like, Felix, get away from me. But as soon as Sarah's like, hey, that's my brother, he's one of us, you see her be like, oh, okay, well, maybe I'll try to make it work a little bit. And I have to say, though, I loved when she like hissed at him as he was walking by. That was so great.
I was laughing.
Oh my gosh.
It's like one of those like that
Yeah,
was awesome.
that was great.
Like that is so related.
It is, and so I'm so excited to see even more of Helena now in kind of a like a normal kind of setting, in so much as anyone in this show is normal. But I guess normal meaning wearing civilian clothes and not locked in a cage, that kind of thing, and kind of embracing this kind of family life in a manner of speaking that I'm guessing she never really had, like at the monastery, and then with Tomas. She always seemed to be very solitary and very much kind of taking care of herself or fending off people that wanted to abuse her. So I'm so excited to see her now being constantly with people, and how that kind of changes her personality, and how that kind of shifts her attitude and her behavior.
Yeah, definitely. Like how she used to be locked in a cage, but now that I guess the whole family and like people reaching out to her is like an alien thing to her because she grew up like being abused and
Yeah,
she never really felt like love from a friend or a family or sister. Now she also got Felix as like a sister or brother, and I guess like she's open to that kind of new type of intimacy and relationship because
yeah,
like how like for Tatiana explained how her motivation has always been like she just wants to love her sister and to be loved, and I
yeah,
guess we're
yeah,
kind of seeing that in this episode how like how Helena's always been viewed as a monster, but now like she's being represented as a like she's just human. She has flaws, but you can
yeah,
still get back from that. Like as long as you have all the people around you that care about you. And I like seeing that side of Helena because like last
yeah,
season I was talking to my friends too how some of my friends like yeah like Helena needs to die like she just like effing everyone's life up. But yeah, you get to see that different side of Helena and like people who used to be afraid of her are more kind of seeing that side of her, the childish, innocent, like the light in her, and it's
yeah,
like a
yeah,
great transition this season.
yeah. And I think it's being handled really well, her story, because on the one hand, she is this kind of maybe emotionally stunted, innocent who has been, forced into this terrible life. But on the other hand, she is a serial killer and 100% capable of killing more people. And so it's such a fine line, a delicate balance between, seeing that side of Helena, the, I was abused, sad story, and the I can still 100% kill you. And so it's so fascinating to me just watching how that story plays out, and also how Sarah treats her. Like, you can see at the beginning of the episode, she's kind of pretty much accepted her, but you kind of see this little, residual barrier between her. Like, Helena to her is still very much other. She's still very much not quite human, or maybe not quite human, but not still kind of a monster. She still kind of sees the monster
Like,
from
because like
season
just the
one.
night before, like she just killed Daniel, so that's still kind of
Yes,
fresh in Sarah's mind.
exactly,
And you gotta be
exactly.
cautious. Like you don't know what she's gonna do next. Like she just showed up.
Yeah.
And, yeah,
Yeah, she doesn't know where she's been. Like, she doesn't know she's been, whatever, at the Proletheans camp. She doesn't know anything except she shot her and now she's back. So you definitely see her being very, very careful, but still starting to really take care of her, and be invested in her well-being, which I think is really interesting. And I also, so moving on just a little bit, I really like the Helena Felix vibe on the way to Art's house. And
you see your helmet all backwards.
I did.
And that was
That was so cute. Yeah. And so when they got into arts, and Felix is like, she really likes food, so if you want any information from her, give her some food.
Give her food.
It was funny to me. It was funny seeing the juxtaposition of Art, who's this like intense kind of, I want answers, what's going on with you, why did you do this, who are the people that you're involved with, this kind of intense kind of questioning thing, and then you see this kind of just blasé Helena who is like interested in the fish, and then like kind of looking off and everywhere, and just like not even caring at all. And I guess I kind of thought about that scene as she's still kind of in this place where the only people that really matter are Sarah, Kira, Felix, and so her circle right now is still very small, and her people that she will talk to circle is even smaller. So it was just hilarious for me that Art's like pounding away at trying to get her to answer these questions, and she's just like, oh, fish,
Yeah, just like a little 5-year-old. It's like, I don't know, say the fishes are more interesting.
Exactly. And so you see Art kind of make this mental shift. He's like, oh, right, let me, food, let me feed her and see if she'll start talking. So I have to say, obviously we'd seen the sneak peeks from, what was it, last week, where Helena is going to, attack Art or whatever. And so I have to say that whole time I was kind of waiting for whatever was going to happen, how she was going to, attack him and escape out of the handcuffs. But I was so relieved that she didn't kill him, because at that point in the episode, I was still thinking, Helena could kill someone, so I didn't know how that was going to go, like whether she was going to try to kill him and escape, or maybe she was just going to leave and try to find Sarah. So I was very relieved that, she only handcuffed him and, didn't leave him like bloody on the floor.
Yeah, definitely. But also, like how last week when she was doing a chokehold on, what's her name, Gracie, like I really thought that she actually killed her. Just like, how Helena, she would, I'd probably find her disposable, or like she is just like a little chick that can find her in that environment, and like and she was thinking like the day before somebody did something to me, and I was expecting her to like go on rage, how this girl just tried to kill me, then I'll kill her back.
Yeah.
But I was surprised that she just made her fall asleep, but at the same time, like I guess with Art as well, I guess she decided not to kill him because, like, how Felix brought her to him. So I guess in a way there was a little room of trust in Art, but at the same time she had to get out of there.
Yeah.
She has other plans.
Yeah, she's got bigger problems than answering Art's questions, for sure.
Yeah.
And that's one thing that is so incredibly compelling about Helena as a character, is you see her as this kind of monster serial killer kind of person, but as you see her in this season continue to make the choice not to kill people, other than Daniel, you kind of start to see, I think, maybe things from her perspective, and you start to understand that if not all, at least most of the killing that she's done in the past has been a result of people forcing her to do it. People that had incredible power, influence, and hold over her. Like if she had said no to Tomas or Maggie Chin or whoever from the Prolethean camps who wanted her to go and kill the Euroclones, things would not have gone well for her, And so I feel like, and not so much to let her off the hook or whatever, because everyone's still responsible for their actions, whatever, I know that, but I see her as being this kind of unwilling, in a way, instrument, tool that the Proletheans have been using, and they've been feeding her these lies of, oh, you're the original, and if you kill all of them, God will love you again, and all this kind of stuff. And so I feel that kind of propaganda coming from them, coupled with their physical forcing of her to do stuff, is really what caused her to kill all these people. Because if you think about it, like you were just saying, she had every right to kill Gracie. Gracie tried to kill her, that's just self-defense, and yet she did not, Um, and so I keep seeing things like this from Helena, and it's just really making it harder for me to see her as this monster that she was kind of presented as in season one. And I think it's fascinating, and it's really, really interesting. Like, you don't see a lot of that on television these days. That kind of layered villainy, I guess.
Like with what you said about how like the people that she killed, because like if you look back of all the people that she's assassinated, it's all the Euro clones, or and then an attempt to kill Beth, Sarah. But at the same time, she also killed Amelia. Like even though she only met her like just one time, but like like unlike Gracie, like Amelia didn't try to kill her, but at the same time, like Helena still blames Amelia of what happened to her.
Yeah.
So I think
definitely.
the motivation of like, or the people that she chose to kill is like has some sort of importance to her and links back to like how she is now, as opposed to like probably why she didn't kill um, Gracie as well, because even though like I said, like she could have just killed her because of
Yeah.
self-defense, but she didn't. It's because like like this girl is not really important to me. Like why should I kill her? Like, you know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
yeah, like
Yeah.
her list has some sort of like importance to her.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point. She definitely has motivation for killing people that I guess aren't clones, and so I definitely think that's a good point that you made. But while we're on Gracie, I was so creeped out with that whole storyline. Like, they locked her in that weird barn room, and I couldn't. I was watching on the computer, so I couldn't. It wasn't quite clear. Did they tie her lips together?
Yeah,
Like, they
they
sewed them
sealed
together
it.
or something?
Yeah,
Oh
they
my
sealed
god.
it. It was
That was gruesome. Like,
yeah,
gruesome.
and that's their like Gracie's those I forget their first name, but Joe, Henrik, and that lady's own child, right?
Mm.
Yeah, but I guess you just don't know what Philippines are doing. Just a bunch of crazy
Yeah.
freaks.
We still really know so little about them.
Yeah,
Um,
like what they're capable.
what they believe, really, what they're, I guess, into. The most interesting thing for me, though, that happened in that situation was, they said, if we don't, if you don't help us find Helena, or we don't get her back, something like that, you will carry the child yourself. And I was just like, oh my gosh. And that's so, this whole time, I was thinking, my read in the Prometheans had been that they were really involved or invested in the clones themselves. But if they're willing to put this child, embryo, whatever, into one of their own, there's got to be some other element from them that we're missing, or that they are really interested in getting, that I just can't figure out. I was like, that's so meh. I don't know how
Yeah,
to feel about that.
I don't know either. I don't know. Again, with like how like in this episode, how like another scene, how when Elena was talking about the Swan Man, how they're
Mm.
playing God, and I think like Prometheans is kind of like on the same page, how they're kind of doing the same when like when they took the egg out of Helena and trying to create this new life,
Mm.
and yeah, and I guess they planned on having Helena to carry the child as well. It's just I'm confused if they take
Yeah,
it out and they put it back in her. Like I don't know. I don't know about the science, but I feel like that's just a weird thing.
yeah. I felt like they, because at first, before I saw, before they inseminated her, I think some other people were really scared that they were going to make a man like rape her basically to get pregnant that way, and I was really, really scared. Um, but so I thought they would, get her pregnant that way. But to see them take out the egg and then inseminate it that way, and then still keep her there, did that mean they were going to put the fertilized egg back inside of her? Like, there's so, I don't know. It's kind of icky, but interesting.
Like that's what I got out of it as well. That's why when Henrik was talking to them, how he was saying, like, we need to get Helena back. Otherwise, like, Gracie has to carry it. So that kind of implies that they were planning to have Helena carry the baby as well. But I guess they need to do some modifications to the baby. So I don't know. That's why I think that they took it out. Cause, who knows what they're doing?
Who even knows? I think I would like to know more about them, just to know like what this new group of Proletheans wants from them. Like, what are they doing? Like with diet, I think it's fairly straightforward. They're science experiments, and they want to see why they're different and all this kind of stuff. You pretty much know what diet wants from them, but Proletheans, it's so confusing. Like I don't know. Yeah. Okay. Well, let's change tactic just a little bit and talk about Cosima and Delphine and the whole dyad side. You see Cosima still doing this research, and she's talking to Scott. Yay, Scott! And so still trying to. I feel like her questions to him now have gotten more detailed, but she still obviously can't tell him exactly what's going on. But I wonder, as he is answering all these questions, I wonder, is he going to start like putting the pieces together and maybe asking her some questions maybe later on down the road? Because obviously Scott's really smart as well. Like he and Cosima were working together, so I feel like it's only a matter of time before he starts kind of getting curious and maybe wondering about what's going on.
Yeah, like that would be an interesting thing to see, because that means that like it would also put Scott in a dangerous position, even though like they warned him. Like that's why like it's also funny how when Cosima asked Delphine like why can't Scott like get into this, and Delphine was like, I'm gonna have to kill your family. Like, and I guess like Scott's response was like, I forgot what he said, but he wasn't taking it as seriously, like even though I felt like they would actually murder his family.
Oh yeah, 100% they would.
And like it'd be interesting to like see what they're gonna do with Scott's character, if they're gonna proceed with that or leave him off. But Scott's have you seen like the previews of them like doing this Dungeons and Dragons thing?
Yeah,
like, I'm curious. Like I'm excited to see what that scene is all about.
And like what kind of conversation it comes out of that time of hanging out, and what all transpires. Yeah, definitely very interested to see what happens there. So with this in this episode, I feel like it made the strongest case to me to sort of start trusting Delphine, because up until now, like, I'm a big, obviously, Cophine shipper, and I am a big Delphine supporter, but at the same time, I definitely see, the two sides, how, she's on Cosima's side, but she's also, working for the diet, and so there's always this back and forth to me, or there has been, with her character with, okay, how far will she go to protect Cosima, but how far will she go to further on this, the scientific research? And so last night I really felt like after, when they broke into Leaky's office and then he came in and he told them, basically, we've been keeping this from you, and then I'm supposed to shut down the test or whatever. To me, like, I saw her emotional response to me seemed very honest, and it seemed very angry, and it seemed very much like she's much more on Casima's side than maybe I had suspected, which was very relieving to me. Like, when the funniest part, it wasn't funny in that, haha, but interesting in when, Leaky is kind of going on about there's a fire and all this stuff, and Cassim was like, so basically you kind of pulled this over on us because there is no experiment now, it's all gone. You could just see Delphine's reaction. She was just so done, like just so done with the whole thing. She was getting so angry, which was really helpful to me, I feel like it was a very authentic kind of response from her.
Yeah, definitely. Like, I have like two sides with it, like kind of interpretation of the scene. Like, it could be like what you just mentioned, that she was genuinely worried and angry about the whole situation. But at the same time, like, some part of me thinks that the whole thing was set up. I don't know, like, if, like, let's say, if on the other side of the fence, how, like, Delphine's kind of more towards, with her goal to cure Casima, but at the same time, like, like how she's willing to go, like, even betray her at some point. Like, somehow I have a feeling that he kind of, we gotta shut this whole operation down. And at the same time, like I said, like how all the fire kind of information had seen up to get something from what Sarah found out, from what Casima knows, and they knew that out of them. So so I was thinking, like, maybe they set that whole thing up to gain Casima's trust and have her like that. Like, I don't know, maybe that's just like a side thinking from me. Just it's either that or it's actually genuine.
Yeah. And it could be a mixture of both, who knows. But that is a really good point that you brought up, because if it was something they planned, it was kind of, I feel like, too easy in a way. Like, Leaky was barely even mad, that they broke into his office.
And also, like, how they were just in the office, like, I don't know, like a minute, and then suddenly Vicky was there. Like, I don't know, like, that seems too easy, like, to me, but it's, who knows, it could be that. So I guess we'll find out soon.
Yeah, I guess we'll find out. Like, with this show,
like, you just have to be skeptical, because it could go either way.
Yeah, it's so true. I think it's interesting, and so now that I'm thinking about this, I definitely could see how that could work, because I feel Leaky more than anyone else is so, like, genuinely invested in the clones. Not so much in a cares about them, loves them kind of thing, but he's very invested in the experiment and in the knowledge or the breakthroughs that might come through with what they find out about these clones. So I feel like at the end of the day, he is protect the clones at all costs, because we put so much money into them and there's so much we want to get out of them. But I thought two things about him. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Rachel mentioned that he does get attached to Joseph.
Yeah. But I think two things about him were interesting in this episode to me. One, that he basically defies Rachel's orders to shut down the experiment. And secondly, that he agrees to this deal with Casima and then, as we later find out, Sarah. And what was it? And so when he meets with Sarah, who he probably was not expecting to see, I feel like he also was so willing to work with her. And I know it's probably because the information was so good, but I think the fact that he was even willing to give her 3 days, was very telling. So I'm very, very interested in what his further storyline is going to be.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Like I guess like Leaky's kind of starting to warm up to me. Like, of course, I'm and but at the same time, it's like like how like last season, the shady old
Yeah, yeah,
doctor was up to like cause trouble, but now
yeah.
we're kind of up his motives and seeing
Hmm.
that
Hmm.
he shows that he does care for the clones and like he wants what's best for them and is willing to like, Rachel just to get on their good side and like he's worried about their well-being.
Yeah. And it's just another example of how brilliant this show is at handling people and human nature. Like, it would be so easy to make people like Leaky, Delphine, Rachel, Cosima, anyone, just like one note characters, but they really flesh them out and they show them with layers and they show them with different motivations and they show them with different with different investments. And so instead of the season one Leaky, like you mentioned, super shady, don't know what he's up to, killing Olivier, all this kind of stuff. You see him as kind of this bad guy, but it swings into season two, and you see him getting invested in these clones and their story and their well-being. And even with Delphine, like he had as her boss or superior, or whatever, had every right to discipline her in some way for whatever, for all the stuff that she's done so far, but he basically lets her off the hook. So it's just so interesting to me how they really flesh everyone out and how they give everyone such complexity. I think it's masterful. I
Yeah,
really do.
definitely. Like there's no heroes or villains. It's like
Hmm.
they're all
Hmm.
like within the spectrum, and I think that's what makes the whole show and the character like
Yeah,
a lot
because
interesting.
that's how people really are. Like no one's
Def-
ever the guy on the shiny white horse, and no one's ever the completely black hat. There's
yeah,
always shades of gray. There's
yeah,
always mixes of motivations, and so I think it's so true to life in that area.
yeah,
So before we move on from Kasima, I am so relieved, I guess, is the biggest feeling, although not, I'm a little sad that it happened this way, but I'm so relieved that Sarah knows now that Kasima is sick. I
yeah,
really, really wish that Kasima had told her herself, because I felt like that, it just would have been so much, I don't know, such more personal and better for their relationship. But I'm just glad that Sarah knows at this point, and so I feel like now a lot of the pieces are going to start falling into place with Kasima, because at first, kind of at the end of season one, their relationship was kind of meh, because she was like, well, why, every clone for herself. Cosima is going to drink the Kool-Aid and work for Dyad, and me and Felix were on her and that kind of thing. But I think things are going to start making sense to her about why Cosima wanted to stay so close to the Dyad, and it's because she's sick and they have the best chance of curing her. Um, and I think that will also help in regards to helping them come to terms with Delphine, because right now, like Sarah and Felix, obviously, don't trust her at all, and they're like, get away. But I think now that she knows, she'll be like, okay, well, it's starting to make sense now. I can see why she's making those decisions.
yeah. Like
Yeah.
definitely with that point, like how like they don't trust Delphine, and how like when Felix first met Delphine and was like, oh, like now I get it, and blah blah blah, and
Yeah.
like yeah, I guess they think that Casima's like really into with this whole thing because like she's blinded for being in love with Delphine.
Hmm.
But now that Sarah's enlightened with this new information, I guess she'll feel more, she'll empathize more with Casima as to
Yeah.
like like I'm not just in this because my girlfriend's in it, but at the same
Hmm.
time it's like I'm invested in it because of the science and like it would help me and it will help my sisters as well, because like, you know, it happened to more than one clone, so who
Yeah.
knows what could happen to. So I guess
Mhm.
like I'm excited to kind of explore that relationship, that blooming of a relationship with Cosima and Sarah, now that Sarah knows. And it's like,
Yeah.
oh, now like now that it's also because part of like one of the reasons that I think that Cosima didn't tell anyone is because I remember how last episode when she was watching tapes, like how Jennifer was
Mhm.
explaining to Cosima like how people would look at her, and with
Yeah.
Cosima,
Yeah.
like you know how Cosima seems like almost always she she likes to think highly of herself, like you know, like
Yeah.
she
Yeah.
doesn't like admitting that she's wrong, and I
Right.
guess she,
Right.
yeah, like she has that pride that like, you know, I don't want you to feel sorry for me, like I can figure my
Exactly.
biology out. And
Yeah.
so yeah, I thought that was a great scene, and it's a great way to
Yeah.
end
Yeah. For sure. For
that
sure.
change.
And I think a lot of the, this is life or death kind of things that Cosima has said cryptically in the past, Sarah will be like,
Like,
"Oh, it really is life or death." And
and now it's pretty bitter.
I wonder now, will this information like clarify like some things with her as far as what's important and how, um, if any, she will be willing to work with Rachel, because it's only going to be a matter of time before Rachel's like, if you don't work with me now, we are going to, you know, take it out on Cosima. And she has Kira now in a safe place as far as we know, if Cal is to be trusted, so she doesn't have to worry about that. And she just made a deal to get Felix back. But so now it would seem that she kind of has everyone that she cares about. But now that she knows that Cosima's sick, Rachel could definitely be more, make more of a point of doing things to hurt Cosima. And so I wonder if Sarah's decisions from now on might be a bit different now that she
Yeah.
knows Cosima's literally dying.
Yeah, it's
Because,
more like it's not just like on her how she mentioned like how like every clone is to herself.
yeah.
Now that she's given that information, it's like, oh, like I don't just have to worry about myself or my daughter or
Hmm.
Felix. Like now
Hmm.
she has to worry about Alice, or I mean Cosima as well. Maybe
Yeah.
Allison. Like we don't know yet.
Yeah. Because, this whole show, um, even though, it's orphan black and Sarah is ostensibly an orphan, until we find out about Helena and so on and so forth. The whole show, it has some big themes of identity and feminism and women's issues and all this kind of thing, but at its heart, it's also a story of family, and it's a story of Sarah, finding, I guess, this family. And so starting from season one, when it was literally, just her and Sarah, her and Felix and Kira. From there, we've seen this trajectory, and we've seen her circle of family expand to include, Siobhan and others. And so now that it's Allison and Cosima, um, we see her, and Helena now as well. We see her opening up, as it were, and we see her caring about more people, and we see her making different decisions than maybe she would have made, back in early season one. Like, before, she knew any of these people, she didn't care about them. Like, she wouldn't. It would be impossible for people to make deals with her based on their lives because, whatever. It's just her and Felix and Kira, and she just wants to get away somewhere and be with them. But she can't do that anymore because now she's starting to see that these people are just as much a part of her, as she is, and not just genetically. Obviously, they're clones, but in this intangible sense of family and people that she cares about. So, now I've lost my original point. I feel like I was saying something profound, but I think it's interesting now that her idea of family is so much bigger now, and
Yeah,
it's,
like it's a great switch from
yeah,
like oh, like I'm a drifter, like I pretty much do a lot of like selfish things, but now
yeah.
it's like she does things for the people that she cares about, and I think
Hmm.
that's like that's a really great character development.
Yeah, great character development for sure. Um, oh wow, we have 5 minutes left. Okay, well let's I guess fast forward to Rachel, Paul, and we might go a little bit over because I really want to talk about obviously that last big scene with Sarah and Helena,
Man. Yeah. Okay.
because that was incredible. But before we go there, I love the story of Rachel now. I'm so much more invested than I have been. Because up until I guess maybe last week, it's not that I didn't like her necessarily, but I just wasn't. I felt like I kind of knew what her story would be somehow. Um, but now seeing that, her parents died in the fire, and she actually had some kind of relationship with them and was loved at some point by them, completely changes how I see her. Because I had assumed that she had just been raised by Dyad this whole time because she says she's been aware from the beginning. But maybe that's not true. Like I think it's almost obvious that that's not completely true because she was, I'm guessing, maybe 5 or 6 in that home video hanging out with her. So I feel like at some point, some part of her switch normal kind of powerful, kind of cold, emotionless person that she is now. And I think going in that same vein, this episode did some really good kind of subtle work in making her human and almost tender. Like you see her almost grieving for Daniel, like not with tears, not with keening or anything like that, but she doesn't let Leaky push her aside or out of the scene of his death. She wants to be in there. She demands to be in there. She bends down and she like caresses his face, and you kind of see her posture ever so slightly change. Like she's always kind of together and whatever, but you see her shoulders droop just a little, and I feel like those tiny things are starting to turn her into this, from this cold robot thing, into like a normal, maybe not normal, and what is normal, but into a human being with like feelings and emotions. And I'm so fascinated by that now.
Yeah, definitely. Like also the fact that like she kept all those old videotapes just like in the drawer, like right under the television. Like
Yeah.
you can tell that that's like such an important thing for her that she probably visits it every once in a while. Because like like when Sarah came to her apartment, it's like still right inside the VHS player.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
like like after that scene, she's kind of watching this again over and over, reminding it. Um, yeah, like that's a really interesting thing that they presented. Just like we're seeing Rachel as more than this cold hard robot.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And yeah,
Which again is the whole theme of this show, is showing that people have layers and things that happen to them at different points in their lives, in childhood or adolescence or whatever, have such a huge effect on the person they become, and it has such a huge effect on their identity and on their behavior and their personality. Like, who knows what would have happened to Rachel had her parents, adoptive parents, not died in the fire, whatever. And and I think another interesting part of that is, this. I think this happened last episode or whatever, but someone pointed out how very easily Rachel could have been Helena, or Helena could have been Sarah, or Sarah could have been Rachel. That whole interchangeability of their destinies, and I think that's so fascinating.
yeah, like it could either be like the three of them just like switching places, but yeah, like it also kind of goes back to that like nature nurture question. How like like not everyone's like no one's born good or bad. It
Yeah,
kind of depends on like how you were raised, your environment, and
yeah,
and it just like I feel like this clone show is like the best representation of that because like maybe physically they're all the same, but it's amazing how you could differentiate all these characters. Like they have completely different like opposite personalities, and
Yeah.
but at the same time they have this kind of continuous like identity that like they have this they're all connected in some way. Like
Yeah.
how like you could tell that all the clones are smart and like kind of like almost in a way like a you could say like a not like a perfect human being, but like like has they all have these amazing qualities, but they're
Mhm.
also amazingly flawed.
Yeah.
And yeah, like yeah, it's just kind of yeah.
And at heart, the main thing that they all want is some sort of identity and some sort of control over their destiny,
Mhm.
which I think is so telling in that they're clones and basically the same person. Um, and so for them to be chasing this or identity or trying to, like Allison, seal her fate in the way that she wants it to go, I think is so interesting. Um, I don't want to talk about this, but I think we should address that incredibly awkward sex scene between Rachel and Paul. I was so uncomfortable.
No, dude, you don't understand. Okay, when I was watching that scene, my mom walked in, and I was like, I was juggling with the remote. I was like, oh my god, I have to pause it, and I paused it, and it's like right when they were like about to like get naked. I was like, oh my god, like I have to turn it off now, and it was just like, okay, like this is not a good time to watch this. But no,
Oh
that
my
was my
god.
experience with it. It's not just an awkward scene, but I was put into an awkward situation watching an awkward scene.
Yeah.
But,
Oh man, that is great. I mean, it's terrible,
but,
but it's great.
but yeah,
Um,
anyway.
But yeah, I think I read that interview with Dylan Bruce about what I guess the motivation kind of was behind that scene. That was so interesting. He talks about how I don't know if you've read it, but it's the whole
Oh, I did.
kind of prize horse thing, and so I could
Mm-hmm.
totally see that with her like wanting only a perfect specimen or
Like, you have to be worthy to be in my bed.
exactly, which I love because that's kind of that whole power dynamics thing that Jack was talking about kind of a few months ago. Rachel is someone that needs to have all the power, and she needs to be the most powerful person in any given relationship with or conversation with another person. And
Okay.
so, obviously, for something as intimate and uh, as personal as sex, she's going to want to be completely in control in as much as possible, and she's going to have this extremely high view of herself. So it made sense that she was like as weird as she was, but it's a little awkward to watch. But
Yeah.
it made a lot of sense, and it really I think clarified even more about her and the way that she viewed herself, like she was looking in the mirror at herself like almost
Yeah, it's like
constantly,
checking herself out.
yeah, making
It's
sure
like,
she was
ooh,
kind of
like
perfect and put together and powerful. So I
mhm.
actually, I mean, I appreciated that. I appreciated that part.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, also like how you mentioned how like their power dynamics, like you can see that like with the physicality and even with the exchange of words, how um, Rachel definitely overpowers uh, Paul. Like
yeah,
how like yeah, like she tells him like what to do, like oh take off your pants, sit here, and how like with the wine thing, I thought that was like an interesting scene. How
yeah,
okay, like pour 2 glasses of wine, and then at the same time when they were about to drink it, like it was like put it down, like I felt like that moment is like okay, we're gonna drink at the same time. Maybe this shows like kind of like an equal view within with each other. But when she told him that it's like put it down, it's like nope, it's like just kidding. Like I'm still like controlling you, and like
yeah,
how like all their physical contact, how like she keeps telling him to like don't move, just stand, and she's doing all the like I don't know. It was weird when she was all touching, like putting her finger in his mouth. I was like, Rachel, what are
inciting
you
the teeth.
doing?
Yeah,
It's like, oh
yeah,
my god, you have some weird fetishes. But like you said, like how Dylan described how she's kind of um checking him out and seeing it, like comparing him like to a dirty horse or whatever.
yeah.
But yeah, like like I also want to kind of talk about how the part when they started making out and Paul started to grab her and she slapped him.
Mm-hmm.
Like what do you think like that meant to both of them?
Well, it kind of harkens back to what did she say? What was it? I think 2 episodes or so ago, when she was like, "Nobody lays hands on me." I feel like Rachel is so kind of like what we were saying before. She needs to be in control, and she needs to initiate all contact, and she needs to um, initiate anything that's going to happen. And so that to me made a lot of sense because it needs to come from her, you know? And I feel like even though I was so uncomfortable with this scene, I don't know that I'm uncomfortable because it was weird or just it's so different from the way we normally see sex depicted in that a woman is calling the shots and is in charge. You know,
Yeah,
like
like
most of the time you see this, it's the guy and he's telling her, oh,
yeah.
you do this and whatever, and she just does it. But it's completely turned on its head, and I don't know if it's so much awkward to see or is it just we're not used to seeing that on television.
Probably a bit of both, because like you know how we're used to how seeing how like men always overpowers a woman, and
Yeah.
if you switch the roles, it would probably seem more disturbing, just because like you know like Paul is a big man, and you know how like Tatiana is a tiny little.
Yeah.
But like in this scene, it's like when you switch it around, it's like maybe it kind of clouds that it filters our view on this. This is pretty much like if you switch it around, this is like, oh, this is definitely like rape, and like, but now that they portrayed it like with switch roles, like maybe we feel awkward because it is like the same situation, but
Yeah.
I don't know. There's just so much going on in that scene that it's
Yeah.
just
Oh my gosh. There's so much. Like, I we don't have time, but there's so much you could talk about, and I think
yeah.
that's another thing that this show does so well is make you think about what is accepted and what is the norm for situations like this in the world, and then taking that and completely turning it on its head to see what will happen.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so I know we're a little bit over, but I just want to spend a few minutes talking about the big Helena Sarah scene at the end and Helena deciding that she was going to snipe Rachel.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I knew that obviously she wasn't going to go through with it, but I didn't know what was going to happen. Because again, you can't take anything for granted on the show. Like, it could very well be that Helena could kill Sarah, you know? And then, you know, there'd be a world of whatever. So I think during that whole scene, my biggest thing was, oh, you know, will she, won't she? What's going to happen? How are they going to stop her? And I have to say, I was crying, just like literal rivers of tears when Sarah comes up to her and she's like telling her, you know, please put the gun down. And then she was like, you know, when I shot you, you know, she's basically telling her like how messed up she was inside and how she couldn't even tell anyone about it, you know. And so you see these emotions coming out of her, these so raw, deeply felt emotions coming out of Sarah. And Helena, you see her like, wow, like I don't think anyone has ever loved her before, and I think that Sarah actually loves her. Like if she didn't before, at the end of that episode, she definitely does. And I feel like Helena was completely dismantled by that because it's literally never happened to her before.
Yeah, like when she said like, "Oh, sister, you make me cry." So that statement is like okay, like no one has ever like showed this kind of like you know like like showed her that like you know someone cared for me, like genuinely cared for me, you know, like she's always motivated by hate and all these you know like she's fed with all these hateful emotions, but now that she's experiencing like the opposite of that, it's like something new to her, but at the same time it's what she's been wanting all along.
Exactly. Exactly.
And, yeah, that was just like like sister moments, like I would have looked.
Oh yeah, I was a mess. Oh my gosh. Yeah. I was a mess.
Like, but yeah, like again, like Tatiana's performance though is like, damn, like Like, I don't want to cry. Like, I'm gonna hold back my tears, but like,
Yeah. If she does not win some kind of award,
yeah,
this
I
next
lose
cycle.
hope to this industry. It's like, no.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. Wow. Okay. Well, we definitely probably need to bring this to an end. But thank you so much for being here today. Thanks for guesting on the show.
My pleasure.
Thank you so much. I will, everyone, link to Danine's Tumblr and Instagram afterwards. Make sure to check the video description on YouTube. Go there, follow her, and everyone, try to put yourselves back together after last night. Have a
Get
great
ready
week.
for next week.
I'm so not ready. But have a great week, and we will see you back here, same time, same place, next Sunday. All right, bye.
Bye.